I've been researching a little bit these last few months on spirals, cycles, repetitions, rotations, and just kind of the concept of spinning through, right? And so, what I've discovered, um, kind of in my own process, I don't want to call it a revelation because it's really just research and experience and kind of beginning to tap into some form of understanding. However, not necessarily the most accurate one or objective one to the whole human experience, but just my personal experience. Um, so yeah, spirals are essentially rotations that occur through a specific time point or a distance. Okay, so they are actually a natural phenomena, right? So we see spirals in nature, in weather patterns, right? Tornadoes, rip currents, and I forgot the other thing, but anyway, so they come up in nature, and essentially what we see in a spiral is a rotation that is occurring over and over again, okay, moving through a linear point, right? And so how does this play out in terms of philosophy? Well, this can kind of look like a repetition of thought processes, life experiences, okay? Specific events that occur in a particular pattern. And that's the key word here, pattern. And because we are inductive, meaning that we seek patterns, we tend to characterize these things that we do experience in a cyclical way as repetitive, right? So for example, when you were a kid, you tended to behave a certain way, and those traits began to become ingrained in you, and to such a high extent that as an adult you tend to exhibit similar characteristics behaviorally as you did as a young person. And there's no fault in that, as well as there's no coincidence. There is a reason behind it, and at least in psychology we can begin to understand those reasons as being, like I mentioned before, conditioning. So we condition our brains, we condition our minds to accept certain stimuli, to repeat certain stimuli in a favor to achieve comfort, and an overall desirable environmental state. In most cases, that means something that is physically favorable to us, meaning that we have access to certain qualities of comfort that we enjoy, meaning warmth, tenderness, support, okay, to name a few. And while those might be a little bit metaphysical, they can also not be, in terms of just think about shelter. What do we tend to seek? We tend to seek warm places. We tend to seek cozy places to rest, right? We like places that are fortified. We like to feel secure, okay? But similarly, what happens on the other end of the spectrum in instability and chaos is repetition in the other side, right? So as you can spiral in the positive direction, you can become more and more positively motivated as you begin to add certain features and attributes. You can also do the same in the negative direction, which manifests itself in a little bit more of an abstract way. So in the negative way, what we can see in terms of personality is sort of lapses, right? Empty spaces, holes, things that begin to deconstruct. And those can be quite difficult to conceptualize because how do we even acknowledge things that we can't grasp, that are slowly slipping from our understanding? And really, we can only describe those in details of things that we do understand. And so, for example, in my own life, I've begun to attribute certain qualities and lack of through my life, and seeing how those have impacted other areas of my life. So, for example, I can see that my lack of emotional security as an adolescent actually played out in an extremely difficult trust issue as an older adult, meaning that because that hole was there, it actually began to magnify and augment itself. And it's hard to understand exactly the root of that cause. What was the initial event that created this? Is it just a personality thing? Is it something more existential? Is it something that can't be quite identified? I don't know. But in many of these cases, we can at least pick up on the pattern once we can identify it. And so, like I said, I've been able to identify a few patterns, and in my own life have been kind of organizing those thoughts to create something with it. And namely, a book is what I'm alluding to, because people have told me about this for a while. They said, you should write a book and you should put these thoughts somewhere. And I think that's kind of the next step, in terms of thinking about spirals. You really don't go anywhere. Ironically, the only place to go in the abstract is the more abstract, right? The only direction you can go in a spiral is spiraling. And so I think that's kind of what is necessary at the moment to satisfy these cravings, these like kind of philosophical tendencies. But what I'm trying to do is explore how have those cycles of struggle, of strife, and of kind of necessary consequential turning points in our life, how have those contributed to other areas of our lives as we've become older? And also, how have we broken free from some of those cycles at certain points in our lives? Because it's my belief that we actually experience very similar life patterns in terms of the struggles we do face. And those can't really be neatly confined to words, but some of the big ones, just to name a few, of course, are greed, right? Anger or wrath, obsession, envy, right? Kind of sloth, laziness. And you notice that I'm referring to the 7 deadly sins. I don't think necessarily that there's only 7 major struggles that people can have, but it is interesting how those do seem to quite substantially describe the human experience, at least in that regard. So that's kind of where I'm heading. On the other side, there's equally a virtue, right? 7 heavenly virtues. There's equally a positive aspect that can be gained from facing each struggle and overcoming it. So I want to explore how each of those have played out in each of our lives as well as mine, being that this is a philosophical narrative. And I hope to kind of reach an endpoint of satisfaction with just a product. If I can't reach an endpoint in terms of contemplation, I'd rather just be able to create something of substance that can just exist, materialize those thoughts and do something with that energy. And that's kind of the plan right now. So the book is called Layer 7. Right now, I'm hoping to release it in April 2024. I have about 15 pages written, and I'm working hard. It's been in the works for about 4 months, and this is like a self funded project, completely independent. Unfortunately, I don't have any mentors outside of philosophical names like Alan Watts and Carl Jung, among others that I've listened to. But this is largely a solo effort. So I'm really excited to bring this to life, and excited to share it right now, and help kind of materialize it in my words at the moment. So yeah, that's all I got from today. This is a concept that you really could dive into much deeper, but I wanted to keep it a bit surface level, just to be able to follow and not ultimately create like a descent, kind of keep it in terms of a revolution, and now we're back to the beginning. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and if you do like these types of videos, consider subscribing, because I'm really trying to rev up my channel in terms of the types of discussions and rhetoric that I'm bringing to the table, and seeing that support would definitely make me feel a bit more proactive moving forward to keep busting these out. So with that being said, thanks for your time, and peace.